Today we're going to be breaking down this spot that I shot for Nomatic. I'm going to go over everything from concept, sound, working with models, editing, and lighting. So I knew I wanted the overall feeling of the video to have this kind of like cold feeling because it's a jacket that's meant to keep you warm. So I ended up going with this cool blue look, and since this isn't a lifestyle video, I decided to lean into more of the features of the jacket. So to figure out what features I wanted to showcase, I spent some time on Nomatic's website looking at what they highlighted. And then I also thought about doing some of the favorite things I like. So for example, it has a front pocket that you can put your phone in. And I do this all the time when I'm running, so I wanted to make sure that I highlighted that. And it also has the thumb holes that, you know, like a lot of like long sleeves has, but theirs are really nice because it's hidden, so you can just like slide your thumbs through. So after I figured out all the features that I wanted to highlight, I built a shot list based around that. And then I spent some time studying some North Face ads and some Arc'teryx ads and paid attention to what the models were doing in that video so I could give my model some visual cues. Which brings me into my next topic about working with models. If you're gonna make a spec ad, I've unfortunately made this mistake many times where you hire a friend or you just use whoever is available and you spend all your money on, you know, renting a light or renting a cool lens. Personally, I'd much rather invest in paying an actual model and just having them walk around the city and shooting them in the clothing. This might seem silly, and I might even get some hate for this, but there's something to be said about having a legit model in your video. Like, I don't know how to say it, but people can kind of look expensive, and having somebody that looks expensive in your video inherently kind of makes your video look more expensive. It's the same concept as why celebrities can get away with wearing anything like outrageously baggy clothes and it just looks good on them. And it's not because it's good fashion, it's because they're attractive people. So anything they put on ultimately looks good. And I found this to be kind of similar when shooting too. So if I'm lighting somebody and they don't have the greatest skin, let's say, you know, it's really like shiny because their skin is kind of oily or something, it can be really hard to nail the lighting versus working with somebody that has great skin. You can get away with doing some, you know, different concepts, and at the end of the day, it's going to look good because that person looks good. I'm not saying that having a good looking model is, you know, everything for making a good video, but it can make your job just a whole lot easier. Again, when it comes to making spec ads, you know, making anything is good practice. The difference is though, if you actually invest, you know, a good amount of money into the video, then it's going to look more and more like an actual commercial. So all that being said, when you're just starting out, it's not the easiest thing ever to just, you know, work with a model, especially if you don't have a portfolio. So sometimes what you can do, and I caution that this doesn't always work and could potentially make somebody mad, but, you know, sometimes I'll reach out on Instagram and I'll offer somebody, hey, you know, I have this product, I want to shoot a video, you know, would you be down to do an exchange of services? That being, I'll give you all the raw footage and I'll make an edit for you. And, you know, sometimes they go for it, but if you're talking to a more experienced model, they're just going to say, talk to my agent. But in my experience, it's been more good than not. Another reason why working with an actual model makes your job a lot easier is because if you're just going to use your friend or something, you're going to have to tell them what to do the entire time. In my experience, if I'm working with a really good model, they can kind of like get into a flow and they just start hitting like different poses and stuff, and you find a little bit of gold in there versus, you know, when you're telling somebody what to do that the entire time, it's hard to do that and focus on your camera and focus on composition and making all of your settings are right and making sure you nailed the movement and everything. So with all that being said, it's still a good idea to have a shot list. Like, you can't just show up and just expect them to do everything, but I promise it's going to make the process so much easier. One of the easiest ways to speed up everything and make your editing process a lot easier is to actually have the song or even some sound effects picked out before you even start. And I'm happy to say that Audio is sponsoring this video. I've been using Audio for over a year now, so thank you, Audio, for investing in a small channel like mine. Link Match AI is my favorite feature. Link Match AI allows users to search the audio catalog by copy and pasting a source link to any song from Spotify, TikTok, SoundCloud, or YouTube. It analyzes the link against the entire catalog and finds the closest match, and sometimes it's crazy good. Here's an example of that. I've been really into Stranger Things lately, so this is the Stranger Things theme song. Love it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit share, copy link, and then I'm going to head over to audio, go to link match AI. Just paste the YouTube link. This works with any YouTube link. And it populates a bunch of songs that sound similar. And this is pretty much exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and download this one. Once you find a song you like, you can use the Elements feature to download stems. Say you just like the synth track of a song and you don't want the vocals or any other instruments, you can just download that stem and have that to work with. You can now try Audio Pro for 70% off, which includes unlimited music, sound effects downloads, unlimited link match AI searches, and now Elements. 70% off brings your price down to $60 for the first year. That's basically like $5 a month. I mean, that's honestly insane. So if you watch YouTube, I'm sure you've seen all the ads. If you wanted to try it out, you can now try it out for 70% off if you use the code LaRosa70, and I'll make sure to pin that in the comments for you. So for our location, I already mentioned that we're shooting at Studio Pop Show. They have a cyc wall. I looked up the dimensions of the cyc wall on the website, and then I went into Satellite, which is a 3D software. I've talked about it on here before. So basically you can build 3D sets, and then you can actually use real film lights. This is nice because you can basically play with an unlimited amount of lighting setups. And honestly, it's kind of tricky to use at first, but after you use it for a while, it kind of feels like playing a video game. So sometimes I'll go on there for fun and just make random shoots and see if I could light something in a cool way. So now that we've built our set in Satellite, I can show you the lighting. For this, I went with a strip box overhead powered by a Zhiyun Mollis G200. It's basically like the same output as a 300D, but it's bicolored. I went with the strip light because I wanted to create some nice contrast between the subject and the background, and this was helping me reduce some of the spill that would be going onto the cyc wall behind him. Plus it's a unique look versus everything being a key light at a 45-degree angle. For my second light, I used an Amaran 150C with this giant softbox I had hitting them from the side. Both lights were set to 6,000 and my camera was set to 4,000. I did this because it creates an in-camera blue look, which is helping me establish the cool blue mood that I was going for. For my camera, I'm using the Sony FX6. This is the camera I own. Honestly, I love this camera. It's been great so far. For my lenses, I'm using the Dizio Arls and the Laowa Probe lens. And then I also use this, which is a halo filter. So what this does is anything that's not in the center, what it does is it creates these really crazy swirls around it. The only problem is that the halo filter I have doesn't fit the Arls, but it fits all of my other lens. So I took a magic arm and a clamp and I just swung it in front of the camera. And then when I did this, I realized that I actually created an in-camera transition. My goal using it was to force the viewer into looking at a specific area of the jacket, making the shot look more interesting. So I noticed that every shoot I find myself, when I like something, I just end up keep repeating it. And on this one, I was liking the halo shots. So when I got back home and I started to edit the video, I realized that I had way too many halo shots. So this is something that I'm working on and I'm trying to keep in mind. And my point with that is that if you're going to use something like a halo filter, make sure you're going to use it intentionally and don't just use it because it looks cool. And if you're just going to use it because it looks cool, it doesn't really always, serve the story and can be too distracting. So my advice is to use it with intention and to not overdo it. And for the probe lens, I have a love-hate relationship with this lens. It's super cool, but one of the problems being that the minimum aperture on it is Actually, hold on, I need to look at it. Okay. So what I was saying is one of the problems is that the minimum aperture on it is f14. So you basically need a crazy amount of light to use this thing. And the problem is that you would think at f14 there would be a lot of things in focus, but when you're super close up on your subject at f14, it actually ends up looking like 1:4 basically, which is honestly not ideal for product shots. So oftentimes when I'm using this, I end up switching my camera into 12,800 and then stopping down as much as I can while maintaining enough light so that I can bring the image down in post without it being too noisy. So I wanted to use the probe lens to get some really cool macro shots. Because the jacket is water resistant, I wanted to get some water droplets coming down. The probe lens does really shine though when you have a slider and you're basically like, pushing in something or sliding across something. So I didn't have a slider, but what I did do was I just had my model stand as close to the lens as possible, and I just I just grabbed him and I just slowly like rocked him back and forth as the logo went past the lens. And then because the jacket is water resistant, I wanted to have these little water droplets coming down the frame as I was doing it. So I had my assistant use this little spray bottle that missed really nicely, and she was just constantly spraying it up in the air as I was rocking him back and forth at 12,800. But I ended up really liking this shot. I thought it was super cool, and it kind of breaks the barrier, and you can really see the texture of the product up close. So wrapping things up here, I'll keep the editing part short. This wasn't a really, extensive, extravagant edit, but I'll go over a couple things that I typically do. I usually like to find all the clips that I like, all the best takes that I like, and then develop some sort of rough cut. And I usually try to cut out as much fluff as possible. So for example, a shot of him zipping all the way from the bottom to the top is not necessary, but just that last little second where he zips right up to the top, and that's the perfect place to cut on the action so you can lead into your next shot. So once I have everything laid out, what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll start adding some sound effects. And my goal here is to try and make the video make sense with just sound effects before I even add music. But since we're in a studio and there's not that many environmental elements, I just kept this one quite simple. Then once the rough cut is done, I'll add the music track and I'll time everything out to the music and develop a flow with the music. But you could also do the vice versa, and it works just as good the other way. So sometimes you can cut to the music, and the music might even help you develop, the pacing that you want to do in the video. And then once I have it all laid out with the music, I will mute the music, go back, and then add sound effects. And honestly, I kind of go back and forth on the way I do this. Sometimes it works better, just adding the sound effects first, and sometimes it works better adding the music first. But, you got to just find whichever one works best for you. But like I said, I kind of flop back and forth between these. So that's all I have for this one. I hope this covers any questions you guys might have had. If you have any other questions, just drop them in the comments. And thank you again, Audio, for investing in a small channel like mine and sponsoring this video. Hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.